But on Tottenham, if they get to the semis and if they get to the final and if they win it, is that enough for Ange to carry on into next season in your eyes? 03717 223344. Kelvin is a big Tottenham fan. Kelvin, how are you? What would you like to say? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, guys. Fantastic show as always.
Thanks, Kelvin.
I mean, basically, Postecoglou has got as much chance of finding out who the mole is as he has of turning this into a winning team. He's out of his depth. He's quite simply out of his depth. You know, people go on about what he did in Scotland. The top two teams in Scotland would struggle to win the championship. So let's be honest about that. And also, as well, he has no idea what he's doing with his team. It changes so much, and he chops and changes things around so much that there's just no solidity in the team. You know, there's no togetherness in that team. They don't want to play for him, and it's really sad to see.
Kelvin, what happens? What happens, in all honesty, if somehow they get to the Europa League final and win it?
If they get to the Europa League final and win it, it will be on pure and absolute luck and chance.
Even if it is, what happens with Ange if they do that?
I still think he needs to go, because we will win that on pure luck, and then next season we'll start to go through the whole same thing as we have done this season, where we can't beat teams that we should be beating week in, week out, and we're not showing up against other teams.
Kelvin, listen, thanks for the call. How crazy would that be, though, Simon, in the eyes of many, if Tottenham go and win a trophy the first time since 2008, and it's a European one, and he's shown the door?
Well, you've seen them do it before. You saw them sack Mourinho on the eve of a final, so it's not beyond the wit of man to presume that it can be done. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, and I hate to say it, if he doesn't win the Europa League, I think he will be gone, and I think he'll have earned that for himself. Because you can't deliver a Tottenham side that finishes in the bottom 4 or 5 of the table and doesn't win anything else as some sort of cover for that.
But Mourinho and Conte set fire to the place. Yeah. Ange hasn't done that.
No, he set fire to the team instead.
Do you think he set fire to his own team?
Well, if you finish 15th in the league, you've set fire to your team.
Every press conference he sets it on fire, doesn't he? You know, because there's his reaction. What he needs to concentrate, as I say, I think with the two central defenders are the biggest loss this season. You need that stability in that position. Van der Ven will be okay for the next game. Romero needs to be reminded of how good he can be and not play like he did yesterday against Wolves. Then you bring people back. The two fullbacks come back in. It's a different back four they played with yesterday, Jim. They've very much got a view on this game coming up. Verkvale is a really good young player that's starting to control midfield. Maddison needs to play in that, you know, progressive position at the top of the midfield. Maybe he doesn't even go with Maddison if he wants to be a little bit more compact. And just look, Son needs to turn up. You know, he's not offering enough to the team. He's the so-called captain.
He came in for a lot of stick on Thursday night.
But Solanke coming back from injury, one by one, they're there. And now this has to be their best game of the season.
Yeah.
In the next game. Has to be. And then anything is possible for them, Jim, because they are capable of winning this competition.
I must admit, a fellow Scot, and I agree with him, has just got in touch with me, the top two in Scotland would struggle to win the championship. I don't think so somehow. I think Celtic would certainly be in amongst it. Maybe not Rangers at this particular time, but Celtic would have a different say on that. David, I don't know what time it is with you. You're down under in Australia, but a big Tottenham fan. What do you want to say? Incidentally, you're not the leak from long range, are you?
No, I mean, there's a few things to say about Ange. I mean, he's going to go. He will not be there to start next season, I think, regardless of whether he wins Europa or not. I think that since he's walked through the door, he's been patronised by certain sections of the English media, all this Bonds, Robbie Williams. And as you rightly said, the question that was asked to him about the Arsenal fans cheering last week was an absolutely disgraceful question that would never be asked to your Peps or anybody else. But I think that, you know, when he came in, he was the avuncular Australian who was great for the culture of the club, which was an absolute disarray after the whole Conte, Stellini, Paratici disgrace. But, you know, Martin talks about Romero. Romero has been shocking this season when he's played. I appreciate he's come back in from Copa America, but when he has played for us, he has acted like someone who wants his move. From day dot, when he joined the club and he went and played that COVID international against Brazil, where the club told him not to go and do that, He has treated us like a David Lloyd centre getting ready for Argentina. And you would have noted yesterday, he was the captain yesterday. At the final whistle, I think he did 5 claps to the away fans, turned on his heels, disappeared down the tunnel. He is not a captain. I want him out of the club. Son is not a leader either. And frankly, his decline over the last couple of years, he's a legend. And we love him for what he's done for the club. But, Liverpool do succession planning very well. Look what they've done with Mane and Firmino. We never do that. We just grind players down to the ground and don't get a value out of them anyway. But I think the reality of the situation is that he will go. But at the end of the summer window, we all knew we were playing more games this season, and we went into the season with a weakened squad. Now, whatever the merits of Royale, Højbjerg, Skip, and other players, they were, Premier League experienced players. Bergvall and Gray have come in. Ange didn't use him to start with until we got that injury. Bergvall's been absolutely magnificent.
He was, I watched him the other night. You're right, David.
Fantastic.
Against Frankfurt, he was superb.
He was superb. But the reality of the situation is that, apparently we were in for Conor Gallagher. I doubt he'd ever would have come to Tottenham. We were in for Eze. But, you had to buy these ready-to-go players in their prime, paying top salaries to strengthen the first team. We went into this season with a weaker squad and more games. But, Ange carries a lot of blame for this. The ownership carries a lot of blame for this. And we'll rinse and repeat. We'll get another manager in for the start of next season. We've got this new CEO going. I don't know what his role means in terms of will he have complete and utter control over the football operations? Because we've been told this time and time again before. Let's hope so, because he has a track record of doing well in football. Scott Munn's track record is AFL and other and minor football. And we'll see how we go. But the song remains the same. The record remains the same as it's been for the last 20 years. But thanks for allowing me on the show, guys.
No problem, David. That's going to be a pretty large phone bill for you, unfortunately, from Australia. Nothing's going to change, says David, really, Simon. Nothing's really going to change, no matter what happens.
Well, you say nothing's going to change. Last year Spurs finished 5th, so something did change.
And Harry Kane had just left.
Yeah, and Harry Kane had just left. And so, something has changed this season, and for reasons that Ange Postecoglou has to explain to the people that he works for, because I don't think there's a tacit acceptance from Daniel that the performance of the team would be good enough, irrespective of whether they win the Europa League or not. And there may well be a case in point that the scenario that we created in this conversation is that even if we were to win the Europa League, which, by the way, when you look at this competition, you look who's in it, Man United and Spurs should be winning this competition. True. So it's not a case of something that they should be, it's a wonderful achievement to do. They should be given the competition that they're playing against. But, we'll see when that happens. Look,
that's not English.
Combined, they've lost over 30-odd games this season. But I'm still saying they could win.
Yeah. Look how many we lose. We'll win it.
Yeah. Look at the sides that are in it, and you look at it and say, well, whatever you say about Manchester United and Tottenham, they have spent more money than the sides that they're playing against. They probably do have more valuable squads. They do have greater investment criteria.
Yeah.
Irrespective of whether you think that's or not, or whether you think the Glazers are proverbial pirates, the fact is they still had huge amounts of money invested in these teams, and these players aren't doing their jobs, and neither are their managers.
Yeah.
Will it be rinse and repeat? Look, I do personally think that unless there's a change in the direction of travel with Tottenham Hotspur around what they're prepared to invest, the wage structure of the club, they're probably going to be in this constant going around a circle, promising and perhaps never achieving. And that can only come from a change of ownership.
Any sympathy, Simon, at all with the number of injuries that they've had? They're not alone. Other teams have had it, but they seem to have had a catalogue.
To a point, I empathise to a point, but I think even when they've had full squads out, that they've lost against teams that they shouldn't have lost against, and even when they haven't, they've lost against teams that they were still patently capable enough of getting a result from. I think you have to take responsibility as a manager and as a group of players for not having done a good enough season this year.
Exactly. How did Bodo Glimt do it? There's a big question for you.
AstroTurf pitch. That's how they do it.
The Europa League quarter-final.
Well, we'll see how they go
on Thursday night.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.